8 months after the first alien ships appeared in human space, Commander Velthak faced a reality that no Velnathi commander in history had ever confronted. His empire was losing a war. The reports flowing across his screens told a story of systematic failure. Ground forces trapped in endless urban warfare, fleet crews suffering psychological breakdowns, computer systems plagued by simple viruses that sophisticated defenses couldn't stop. Most disturbing of all, other species throughout the galaxy were watching. Word was spreading that the mighty Velnathi Empire had been stopped by a primitive species using obsolete weapons and impossible tactics, sir, his communications officer reported with barely concealed panic. We're receiving transmission requests from the human leadership. Velthak's 4 eyes narrowed. They wish to discuss surrender terms? Unknown, sir. The transmission is being broadcast on all frequencies. They appear to want the entire galaxy to hear whatever they have to say. Against his better judgment, Velthak accepted the transmission. The screen filled with the image of an elderly human male, wearing what appeared to be ceremonial clothing. I am President Lee Kyung-soo of the United Earth Government, the human said calmly.
I have a message for Commander Velthak and the Velnathi Empire. Velthak waited for the surrender offer that had to be coming.
No species could withstand the losses that humans had suffered and continue fighting. We reject your demands for surrender, President Lee continued. We reject your authority over our world. We reject your right to conquest. But we offer you one opportunity to withdraw from our space with your surviving ships and personnel. The alien commander stared at the screen in disbelief. You're offering us terms? This war ends in one of 2 ways, President Lee replied. Either you leave our space voluntarily, or we destroy every Velnathi ship in this system. There will be no negotiation, no compromise, no shared settlement. Choose. The transmission ended, leaving Velthak staring at a blank screen. In 800 years of Velnathi expansion, no conquered species had ever dictated terms to the Empire. Admiral Kim Tae-woo had planned the final assault with characteristic human thoroughness. Instead of trying to match Velnathi technology, he would use their own psychology against them. They think like conquerors, he explained to his staff. Conquerors calculate costs and benefits. When the cost becomes too high, they move on to easier targets. So we make the cost unbearable? Asked Captain Lee from Aegis Station. We make victory impossible, Kim replied. Even if they defeat every human ship and soldier, they'll never truly control our world. And deep down, they know it. Fleet Admiral Park Jin-woo commanded the final human assault from the bridge of the reconstructed battleship Seoul. His fleet consisted of heavily damaged ships held together with spare parts, civilian vessels converted to military use, and captured alien technology operated by crews who barely understood how it worked. By any reasonable standard, it should have been a suicide mission. All ships. This is Admiral Park, he announced over the fleet communication system. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity's survival. Attack formation. Captain Song Hye-jin led her fighter squadron in the opening wave. Her 12 remaining pilots flew fighters that would have been scrapped by any other military, but which continued to function through sheer human stubbornness. Remember, she told her squadron, we're not trying to win a clean victory. We're trying to break their will to fight. The human attack was unlike anything the Velnathi had ever encountered. Instead of attempting to match alien firepower, human ships used ramming attacks, suicide runs, and tactics that prioritized psychological impact over military efficiency. Commander Velthak watched in horror as a crippled human destroyer, its engines failing and its weapons offline, somehow managed to collide with one of his cruisers. The impact destroyed both ships, but the human crew had continued fighting even when their vessel was clearly doomed. Sir, his tactical officer reported, human casualties are at 93%, but their attack intensity is increasing, not decreasing. It was true. As human ships were destroyed, the surviving crews fought with even greater desperation. They had nothing left to lose, and that made them incredibly dangerous. Tech specialist Lim Jae-sung coordinated cyber warfare from a hidden bunker on Earth. His final attack wasn't sophisticated. It was a simple program that displayed a single message on every Velnathi screen in the fleet. We are humanity, the message read. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. We do not compromise. If you stay in our space, we will destroy you. If you return with more ships, we will destroy them too. We will never stop fighting. The psychological impact was devastating. Velnathi crews, already demoralized by months of impossible warfare, began to understand that victory against humans wasn't just difficult, it was meaningless. Even total military success would leave them occupying a hostile world, filled with billions of humans who would never accept defeat. Captain Bay. Junho commanded a submarine that had been converted for space warfare. His vessel used stealth technology and hit-and-run tactics that the aliens couldn't predict or counter. When Velnathi ships tried to hunt him down, he simply disappeared into the cosmic background radiation and struck from a different direction. "They're trying to fight us like a conventional enemy," he reported to Admiral Kim. "But we're not fighting a conventional war. We're fighting for survival, and that changes everything." The turning point came when Major Kang Dong-woo successfully infiltrated the Velnathi command ship. His mission wasn't to destroy the vessel. It was to plant a single device in the alien computer core. The device was simple: a human music player loaded with recordings of Earth's military history. As Velnathi computers accessed the files, they began to understand the full scope of human warfare. Thousands of years of conflict, millions of battles, weapons that evolved from stone clubs to nuclear warheads, tactics that ranged from individual combat to global warfare, a species that had spent its entire existence learning how to fight against impossible odds. The data was more than information, it was revelation. The Velnathi had encountered a species that excelled at warfare, not despite its primitive technology, but because of its experience with impossible conflicts. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin's post-battle interviews with captured Velnathi crew members revealed the final truth. "They broke psychologically," she reported to the Defense Council. "They realized they weren't just fighting a military force. They were fighting a way of thinking that they couldn't understand or defeat." "What broke them specifically?" asked Admiral Kim. "The understanding that humans see survival and victory as the same thing. Other species fight wars to achieve goals. Humans fight wars to continue existing, and that makes us impossible to defeat through conventional means." Commander Velthak made his final decision while staring at casualty reports that told an impossible story. His technologically superior fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy using primitive weapons and insane tactics. More importantly, his crews were refusing to fight. Velnathi personnel were requesting transfers, reporting sick, and in some cases simply abandoning their posts. The psychological pressure of fighting humans had broken the Empire's military discipline. "Signal the fleet," he ordered quietly. "We are withdrawing from this system." "Sir, the Empire will consider this defeat unacceptable," his communications officer warned. "The Empire has never fought humans before," Velthak replied. "Once they understand what we've learned here, they'll realize that some victories cost more than they're worth." The Velnathi withdrawal was swift and complete. Within 6 hours, every alien ship had left human space. Behind them, they left a solar system scarred by war but still under human control. President Lee Kyung-soo's final broadcast to the galaxy was simple. "This is Earth. We are humanity. We do not start wars, but we finish them. Any species that threatens our survival will learn what the Velnathi learned. We are not advanced. We are not sophisticated, but we are unbreakable." 6 months later, Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of a rebuilt Aegis station, monitoring deep space communications. The galaxy had changed since humanity's victory over the Velnathi Empire. "Sir," Lieutenant Yoon Ji-hee reported, "we're receiving diplomatic signals from 12 different species. Trade offers, alliance proposals, requests for military consultation." Lee smiled. "They want to be our friends now?" "It appears so, sir. Word has spread throughout the galaxy about our defensive capabilities." Engineer Choi Min-ho looked up from his console. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting new contacts at the edge of the system. Multiple ships, unknown configuration." For a moment, Lee felt the familiar tension of potential conflict. Then Ji-hai's voice cut through his concern. "Sir, the ships are broadcasting diplomatic codes. They're requesting permission to approach for peaceful contact." Lee relaxed. The galaxy had learned something important about humanity. They were a species that could not be conquered, could not be broken, and would not surrender. But they were also a species that preferred peace to war. "Grant them approach clearance," he ordered, "and send a message to Earth Defense Command." Tell Admiral Kim that humanity has officially been invited to join the galactic community. What changed their minds, sir? Commander Velthak learned from his mistakes. 3 weeks after the disastrous first assault, he returned with overwhelming force. 24 massive ships descended toward Earth. Their weapons charged and their defenses reinforced against kinetic attacks. This time, he thought, there would be no surprises. He was wrong. The Velnathi fleet approached Earth expecting another ambush from hidden projectile weapons. They had adapted their formation, installed additional armor, and developed new sensor systems designed to detect incoming tungsten rods. When the human kinetic weapons attacked as expected, the alien ships were ready. Most of the rods bounced harmlessly off their improved defenses. The few that penetrated caused minimal damage. Commander Velthak allowed himself a moment of satisfaction as his ships pressed forward toward Earth. "Begin orbital bombardment," he ordered. "Target military installations first, then population centers." But the humans had learned something too. If the aliens could adapt to kinetic weapons, humanity would use something else entirely. Captain Lee Daeho watched from Aegis Station as the alien fleet broke through Earth's outer defenses. According to every military textbook in the galaxy, this should have been the moment when Earth surrendered to avoid total destruction. Instead, Lee gave an order that no galactic civilization had ever used before. All units, begin total war protocol. The Velnathi ships began their bombardment, expecting to face organized military resistance from prepared positions. What they encountered instead was something their databases had no reference for: an entire planet that refused to distinguish between soldiers and civilians. Colonel Han Soo-jin coordinated the global response from a bunker deep beneath Seoul. As alien troops began landing in major cities around the world, they found themselves fighting not just human military forces, but human civilization itself. Every factory that had been producing consumer goods the day before was now manufacturing explosives. Delivery trucks carried improvised bombs instead of packages. Even children were modified toys into surveillance devices and weapons. The psychological impact on the Velnathi ground forces was immediate and devastating. "Commander," reported the leader of the Seoul landing force, "we are encountering resistance from the entire population. Our intelligence indicated that this species distinguishes between military and civilian personnel. This appears to be incorrect." Velthak studied the reports flowing in from landing sites around the planet. Every single ground force was reporting the same thing: total resistance from all humans regardless of age, profession, or apparent military training. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Civilized species protect their non-combatants. They surrender when facing overwhelming force to preserve their population." Dr. Shin Mi-young had anticipated this confusion. Broadcasting from a hidden transmitter, she began explaining human history to the bewildered aliens. "You're fighting a species that spent 10,000 years at war with itself." Her voice carried across Velnathi communication networks. "We fought with stones and sticks, swords and guns, tanks and aircraft. We fought in our forests and our cities, in our skies and under our oceans." The broadcast continued as human civilians continued their desperate resistance. "We know how to lose everything and keep fighting. We know how to turn anything into a weapon. We know how to win when winning should be impossible." Major Kang Dongwoo led a special forces team that had infiltrated the largest Velnathi landing ship. Their mission wasn't to capture the vessel, it was to prove a point. Using explosives made from common household chemicals, Kang's team destroyed the ship's primary computer core. As alien crew members rushed to contain the damage, they found themselves fighting humans who seemed to appear from nowhere, strike without warning, and disappear back into the chaos. "Sir," reported the ship's security chief to his commander, "the human infiltrators are using tactics we cannot predict. They appear to be improvising their strategy in real time, adapting to our countermeasures faster than our computers can calculate responses." It was true. While Velnathi tactics were based on careful planning and systematic execution, human special forces had trained for situations where everything went wrong. When their original plan failed, they immediately developed new plans. When those failed, they developed more plans. The aliens had never fought an enemy that excelled at losing. Tech specialist Lim Jae-sung struck at the Velnathi from cyberspace. His programs were crude by galactic standards. Simple viruses that any advanced system should have stopped easily. But the alien quantum computers were designed to defend against sophisticated attacks, not primitive ones. Their security is like a fortress built to stop tanks, Lim explained to his team. It's completely unprepared for someone who attacks with a sharp stick. His program slipped through alien defenses and began causing random malfunctions throughout their fleet. Weapons misfired, navigation systems gave incorrect readings, and life support systems shut down unexpectedly. The cumulative effect was psychological destruction of Velnathi confidence. Commander No Hyunwoo commanded a converted mining station in the asteroid belt that had been transformed into a weapons platform. When Velnathi ships moved to attack his position, they expected to face another kinetic weapon installation. Instead, No had equipped his station with captured alien energy weapons powered by the mining station's massive fusion reactors. The hybrid technology combined Velnathi firepower with human tactical doctrine. Target their command ship, No ordered as his makeshift weapons opened fire. Use dispersed firing patterns. Make them think we have more guns than we actually do. The Velnathi ships found themselves under attack from weapons that matched their own technology, but were used in ways they couldn't predict. Instead of the focused, efficient attacks they expected, the humans used wasteful, chaotic firing patterns that somehow achieved better results. 6 months into the war, Commander Velthak faced something unprecedented in Velnathi history, the possibility of defeat. His ships controlled Earth's orbital space, but the planet below remained unconquered. Every day brought new casualties from human resistance forces that seemed to multiply rather than diminish. His computer systems were plagued by malfunctions that his technicians couldn't diagnose or repair. Worst of all, his crews were beginning to break under the psychological pressure. "Sir," reported his chief medical officer, "stress-related disorders among our personnel have increased by 400%. Many crew members are requesting transfer to rear positions." "Transfer to where?" Velthak demanded. "This is the rear position! We're fighting a primitive species that shouldn't be able to threaten a single one of our ships." But that was the problem. The humans weren't acting like a primitive species. They were acting like humans, a species that had evolved in constant warfare, that had learned to fight when everything went wrong, that simply refused to accept defeat. Captain Song Hyejin's fighter squadron had been reduced to 12 operational aircraft, but they continued to harass Velnathi ships with tactics that defied all logic. Her pilots flew damaged fighters held together with spare parts and determination, striking at alien vessels and somehow escaping destruction. "Remember," she told her pilots before their latest mission, "they're stronger than us, faster than us, and their technology is better than ours. But they've never fought anyone crazy enough to ram a crippled fighter into the bridge of a battleship." The threat wasn't idle. 3 human pilots had already carried out successful kamikaze attacks against Velnathi vessels, causing damage far out of proportion to their small fighters' capabilities. From his command post on Earth, Admiral Kim Tae-woo watched the tactical situation with grim satisfaction. "They came here expecting to fight another galactic civilization," he observed. "Instead, they're fighting humans. And humans don't fight wars to win territory or resources." "What do we fight for?" asked Colonel Han. "Survival. And when we're fighting for survival, we'll use any weapon, any tactic, any sacrifice necessary to win." Dr. Yoon Soo-jin, who had been studying captured Velnathi prisoners, made a discovery that would prove crucial. "Admiral, the aliens are having a psychological breakdown. They can't understand why we keep fighting when we're clearly outmatched. Their species evolved to dominate through superior force," she continued. "When they encounter resistance, they increase the force until the enemy submits. But humans don't work that way. The more force they use against us, the more determined we become." Admiral Kim nodded slowly. "They're learning that there's something worse than an enemy who might defeat you." "What's that?" "An enemy who refuses to be defeated." Far above Earth, Commander Velthak stared at the status reports flowing across his screens. His empire had conquered 17 star systems using overwhelming technological superiority. It had always worked before, but these humans fought like nothing in the galaxy. They turned their entire civilization into a weapon. They refused to surrender even when facing certain death. They adapted to his tactics faster than his computers could calculate new strategies. For the first time in his career, Velthak began to wonder if victory was possible against an enemy that simply would not quit. The first Velnathi ship crossed into the inner solar system at exactly 800 hours, Earth Standard Time. Commander Velthak watched confidently as his 3 advanced vessels approached the human homeworld, their energy weapons charging for orbital bombardment. Target the largest population centers first, he ordered. Once they see their cities burning, they will surrender quickly. His tactical officer nodded. Estimated time to optimal firing position, 23 minutes. On Aegis Station, Captain Lee Daeho watched the alien ships approach on his tactical display. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. There was no panic, no desperate last-minute preparations. Everything had been ready for days. Jihai, signal all platforms. Execute Sun Tzu protocol. Lieutenant Yoon Jihai's fingers moved across her console. Throughout the solar system, thousands of tungsten rods began moving from their hidden positions among the asteroids. Each rod was simple, just a long piece of dense metal with basic guidance systems. But they had been accelerated to tremendous speed by magnetic launchers hidden throughout the asteroid belt. To the Velnathi sensors, they looked like debris kicked up by routine mining operations. First impact in 30 seconds, reported engineer Choi Min-ho from his weapons station. The lead Velnathi ship never saw what hit it. The tungsten rod struck its hull at 15% the speed of light, creating a flash of energy visible from Earth. The alien ship's sophisticated energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and particle beams, offered no resistance to a simple piece of metal moving at relativistic speed. Direct hit on target 1, Choi reported calmly. Hull breach confirmed. They're losing atmosphere. Commander Velthak stared at his displays in shock. His ship's computers were trying to analyze what had just happened, but their databases contained no reference for kinetic weapons moving at such velocity. Damage report, he demanded. Massive hull breach in sections 7 through 12. His engineering officer replied, panic creeping into his voice. The impact created fractures throughout our crystalline hull matrix. We're losing structural integrity. What weapon caused this damage? Unknown, Commander. Our sensors detected no energy discharge, no missile launch, no directed beam attack. Something struck us, but we cannot identify the source. Before Velthak could respond, alarms began screaming throughout his ship. More tungsten rods were impacting his other vessels. His second ship suffered a direct hit to its primary weapon array, while the third took damage to its propulsion systems. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Velthak ordered. Identify the source of these attacks. But there was nothing to identify. The tungsten rods came from every direction, launched from positions hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Some had been traveling for hours following complex orbital paths calculated to converge on the alien ships at precisely this moment. Sir, his tactical officer reported, I'm detecting thousands of additional projectiles incoming. Impact times range from 30 seconds to 6 minutes. Captain Lee watched the battle unfold from Aegis Station with grim satisfaction. The alien ships were trying to use evasive maneuvers, but they were massive vessels designed for overwhelming firepower, not agility. Meanwhile, the tungsten rods were small, fast, and coming from every direction. Target priority is the ship with the intact weapon systems, he ordered. I want it disabled before it can fire on Earth. Dr. Park So-min monitored the Velnathi communications from her station. Captain, they're trying to contact their main fleet. The transmission is getting through, but they're having trouble explaining what's happening to them. What are they saying? The lead ship is reporting that they're under attack by unknown weapons. They can't identify the source, and their defensive systems aren't working. The main fleet commander is demanding a detailed tactical analysis. How do you analyze something you've never seen before? Colonel Han asked with dark humor. The battle continued for 47 minutes. By the time it ended, one Velnathi ship was completely destroyed, one was crippled and drifting, and the third had suffered enough damage to force its retreat back to the main fleet. But the real victory wasn't the damage to alien ships. It was the effect on alien morale. Commander Velthak's retreat to the main fleet was the first time in Velnathi history that their advance forces had been defeated by a supposedly primitive species. When he reported to the fleet commander, his account of the battle sounded impossible. You're telling me, the fleet commander said slowly, that the humans attacked you with simple metal projectiles? Yes, sir. But projectiles moving at speeds we've never encountered. Our defensive systems couldn't track them, couldn't predict their paths, couldn't stop them. How many ships did they use for this attack? That's the problem, sir. We never detected any ships. The projectiles came from hidden positions throughout their solar system. We couldn't identify the launch points until after the impacts. The fleet commander's four eyes narrowed. You're describing tactics we've never encountered. Our databases contain no reference for such primitive yet effective methods. Meanwhile, on Earth, the victory was being analyzed by human military leaders who understood exactly what had happened. They fell for the oldest trick in human warfare, Admiral Kim Tae-woo explained to the Defense Council. They assumed we would fight the way they fight. Instead, we used ambush tactics that humans have been perfecting for thousands of years. Captain Song Hyejin, who had led her fighter squadron in support of the tungsten rod attack, shook her head in amazement. Their pilots are skilled, but they fight like machines. Perfect formation, textbook maneuvers, no improvisation. When something unexpected happened, they couldn't adapt. That's because they've never had to, Dr. Park added. Every species they've conquered before used similar tactics and technology. They've never fought an enemy that approaches warfare the way we do. Tech specialist Lim Jae-sung had been monitoring Velnathi computer networks during the battle. Sir, I was able to plant several logic bombs in their systems while they were distracted by the kinetic attacks. Nothing sophisticated, just simple programs designed to cause random malfunctions. Did it work? Their quantum computer systems are so advanced that they filtered out most of my programs automatically. But a few got through, and they're causing problems the aliens can't diagnose. Their computers aren't programmed to defend against simple, crude cyber attacks. Admiral Kim studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet's new position. After the defeat of their advanced ships, they had withdrawn to a more distant orbit and appeared to be reassessing their strategy. They're learning, he observed. Next time, they'll be ready for our kinetic weapons. Good, Colonel Han replied. Because next time, we'll use something completely different. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The aliens were trying to analyze human tactics, adapt their strategy, and develop countermeasures. It was a logical, systematic approach that had worked against every other species they had encountered. But humans had spent 50,000 years fighting enemies who also tried to analyze, adapt, and develop countermeasures. The entire history of human warfare was a story of constant innovation, desperate improvisation, and refusal to accept defeat. Captain Lee's voice came over the communication system from Aegis Station. All commands, this is Aegis Actual. The aliens are regrouping and will probably attack again within 24 hours. But now they know something they didn't know before. What's that? Admiral Kim asked. They know that humans don't fight fair, and that knowledge is going to make them afraid. Far out in space, Commander Velthak stared at the damage reports from his failed attack. 3 ships damaged or destroyed by an enemy using weapons that shouldn't have been effective against Velnathi technology. For the first time in his military career, he was beginning to doubt the inevitable victory of his empire. These humans fought like nothing in the galaxy's databases. They used deception, ambush, and tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. And somehow it was working. The Velnathi scout ships moved through the outer solar system like predators studying their prey. Commander Velthak watched the sensor readings with growing confidence. As his ships mapped human defenses, report, he commanded from his position on the massive bridge of the flagship. The humans appear to be using primitive, solid projectile weapons, reported his tactical officer. Their vessels are constructed from basic metallic compounds. No energy shielding detected on any of their platforms. Velthak's 4 eyes narrowed in what his species considered amusement. Chemical propulsion systems? Yes, Commander. Along with crude nuclear devices and what appears to be magnetic acceleration technology. Their largest weapons platforms are hidden among the asteroid debris, but they register clearly on our advanced scanners. How refreshingly simple, Velthak mused. No plasma batteries, no quantum disruptors, no phase shields. This should be concluded within 1 rotation of their planet. Meanwhile, on Aegis Station, Dr. Park So-min was making discoveries that would prove far more important than anyone realized. She had spent 3 days studying captured data from Velnathi scout probes, and what she found both worried and excited her. Captain Lee, she called urgently as she burst into the command center. I need to show you something. Lee looked up from the tactical displays he'd been studying. Colonel Han Soo-jin, who had arrived from Earth to coordinate ground defenses, and tech specialist Lim Jae-sung joined them around Dr. Park's workstation. I've been analyzing the hull composition of their ships, Dr. Park began, her fingers flying over the controls. Look at this molecular structure. The screen showed a complex lattice of crystalline formations. Their ship hulls are grown, not built. The material is designed to absorb and deflect energy-based attacks. It's incredibly sophisticated. That sounds bad for us, Colonel Han remarked dryly. Actually, it might be very good for us, Dr. Park continued. This hull material is perfect against plasma weapons, particle beams, and directed energy attacks. But look what happens when I run a simulation of kinetic impact. The display showed a simple steel projectile striking the alien hull material. The crystalline structure shattered on impact, creating massive fractures that spread throughout the affected area. They've never needed to defend against solid projectiles moving at high velocity, Dr. Park explained. Every species they've conquered used energy weapons. Lim Jae-sung leaned forward, studying the data. What about their computer systems? That's even more interesting, Dr. Park replied, switching displays. They use quantum processing networks with incredible computational power. But the entire system is designed to defend against sophisticated cyber attacks using advanced algorithms and quantum encryption. And our cyber warfare capabilities are? Lee asked. Crude, simple, and based on principles they've never encountered, Lim said with a growing smile. Their quantum systems are designed to be unhackable by other quantum systems. But simple logic bombs and basic viruses might slip right through their defenses. Colonel Han studied the alien fleet positions on the tactical display. So they're expecting to fight an enemy that uses energy weapons, quantum computers, and sophisticated technology. Instead, they're getting kinetic weapons, chemical computers, and technology based on 50,000 years of human warfare. Lee finished. Admiral Kim Tae-woo's voice crackled over the communication system. All stations prepare to implement protocol endurance. Captain Lee, you have operational command of orbital defenses. Colonel Han, ground forces are yours. Everyone else, you know your jobs. Protocol endurance was something uniquely human. While other species developed battle plans based on matching force with force, humans had learned to fight when everything went wrong. It assumed that communications would fail, supply lines would be cut, and commanders would have to make decisions with incomplete information. Captain Song Hye-jin's fighter squadron had been practicing maneuvers that would have seemed insane to any other species. Her pilots trained to continue fighting even when their ships were damaged, their weapons were depleted, and their odds of survival were zero. Remember, she told her squadron during their final briefing, these aliens have never fought an enemy that refuses to quit. When their computer models say they should surrender, they surrender. When our computers say we should surrender, we fight harder. The Velnathi, meanwhile, were becoming puzzled by human behavior. Their scouts reported that instead of gathering their forces for a traditional defense, humans were scattering their assets throughout the solar system. Weapon platforms were hidden among asteroids. Ships were dispersed rather than concentrated. Ground forces were spread across multiple continents instead of protecting major population centers. This makes no tactical sense, complained the Velnathi tactical officer. They're abandoning all principles of efficient defense. Commander Velthak studied the human deployment patterns. In his experience, inferior species tried to match his forces directly, hoping their desperation would overcome his technological advantage. But these humans seemed to be preparing for something else entirely. Perhaps they planned to flee, suggested one of his subordinates. No, Velthak said slowly. Their ships lack the range for interstellar travel with their entire population. And they're not concentrating their forces for a final battle. They're preparing for... He paused, unable to complete the thought. In his database of conquered species, there was no reference for what humans appeared to be doing. Dr. Park made another crucial discovery when she intercepted and decoded a Velnathi transmission. Captain, listen to this, she said, playing back the alien communication. These humans fight like primitives, the alien voice said through the translator. They use deception, ambush tactics, and refuse to engage in honorable combat. Our behavioral prediction models cannot account for their actions. Honorable combat, Lee repeated thoughtfully. They expect their enemies to fight fair. Sir, Lieutenant Yoon Ji-hai reported from her station. I'm detecting movement from the alien fleet. 3 ships are breaking formation and heading toward Earth. Here we go, Colonel Han said. How long until they reach engagement range? 18 hours, Lee replied. All stations, this is it. Remember, they're expecting us to fight like every other species they've conquered. Instead, we're going to fight like humans. As the alien ships approached, humanity's true defensive strategy began to reveal itself. Hidden throughout the solar system, Thousands of small objects waited in carefully calculated orbits. To alien sensors, they appeared to be nothing more than space, debris, chunks of metal too small to be worth notice. But each piece of debris was actually a tungsten rod equipped with a simple guidance system and positioned to achieve maximum kinetic impact. The aliens' advanced sensors were designed to detect energy weapons and sophisticated missiles. They weren't programmed to worry about simple chunks of metal. Commander Velthak watched his advanced ships approach the human homeworld. According to his calculations, the primitive defenders would attempt to engage his vessels at maximum range with their crude kinetic weapons. His ship's energy shields would deflect the attacks, and his plasma cannons would destroy the human platforms before they could reload. It was a strategy that had worked perfectly. Against 16 previous species, he had no way of knowing that humans had never read the Galactic textbook on proper military tactics. They had written their own rules during thousands of years of warfare against the most dangerous enemy they had ever faced: each other. Captain Lee Daeho stared at the scanner display with growing concern. The coffee in his hand had gone cold an hour ago, but he barely noticed. Something was wrong with the readings from the outer edge of the solar system. Ji-Hai, run that scan again, he called to Lieutenant Yoon Ji-Hai at the communications station. I'm seeing energy signatures that don't match anything in our database. The young officer's fingers danced across her console. Aegis Station, Earth's primary orbital defense platform, hummed quietly around them. It was supposed to be another routine day of monitoring space traffic and checking asteroid mining operations. Sir, you're going to want to see this, Ji-Hai said, her voice tight with worry. The main display lit up with 12 massive contacts appearing at the edge of their solar system. Lee Daeho had been in space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Each contact was enormous, easily the size of small moons. Get me Admiral Kim Tae-woo on priority channel, Lee ordered. And wake up Dr. Park So-min. We need our xenobiologist here now. Within minutes, Admiral Kim's weathered face appeared on the communication screen from Earth Defense Headquarters. Dr. Park So-min rushed onto the bridge, still pulling on her uniform jacket. Report? Captain, Admiral Kim said. 12 unknown vessels, massive size, just appeared at grid 77 Alpha. They're not using any propulsion system we recognize, Lee explained. Dr. Park, have you ever seen anything like this? Dr. Park studied the readings, her face growing pale. The energy signatures suggest advanced hyperspace technology, much more advanced than anything the Galactic Federation uses. These ships are at least 10 times larger than the biggest Federation vessels. Sir? Ji-Hai interrupted. I'm receiving a transmission. It's directed at Earth. Put it through, Admiral Kim ordered. The screen filled with an alien face unlike anything they had seen before. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, dark purple skin, and what looked like natural armor plating covering its skull. When it spoke, the universal translator made its voice sound cold and mechanical. Primitive species of the 3rd planet, the alien began. I am Commander Velthak of the Velnathi Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You have 7 of your planetary rotations to surrender completely. Submit your leaders for processing, and your population will be relocated to suitable work facilities. Resist, and you will face total elimination. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in shocked silence. Dr. Park was the first to speak. The Velnathi Empire. I've heard rumors. They've conquered at least 15 star systems in the past century. They're known for giving species one chance to surrender before completely destroying them. Admiral Kim's expression hardened. Captain Lee, maintain monitoring stations. Dr. Park, I want everything you can find about these Velnathi. I'm calling an emergency session of the Defense Council. Over the next several hours, information trickled in from various sources. The Galactic Federation confirmed what Dr. Park had said. The Velnathi were a conquest species that had been expanding aggressively across their sector of the galaxy. They had never been defeated. The Federation won't help us, Admiral Kim reported during an emergency briefing. They claim the Velnathi are too powerful to oppose. Several Federation members have already sent messages advising us to surrender. Engineer Choi Min-ho, head of Aegis Station's defensive systems, shook his head. Sir, I've been analyzing their ship configurations. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, but something seems off. What do you mean? Lee asked. Their ships are designed around energy-based weapons and defenses. Everything we're seeing suggests they expect to fight enemies using plasma cannons, particle beams, and energy shields. That's standard for most galactic civilizations. Dr. Park nodded thoughtfully. Minho's right. I've been studying the records of their previous conquests. Every species they defeated used similar technology: energy weapons, shield generators, centralized computer control systems. And that's a problem because? Admiral Kim prompted. Because that's not how humans fight, Dr. Park explained. We developed our military technology in isolation, based on thousands of years of warfare against other humans. We use kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, and distributed command structures. Our entire approach to combat is different from what they've encountered before. Lee studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet holding position at the edge of their solar system. They're taking their time, probably scanning our defenses, trying to understand our capabilities. What are they seeing? Admiral Kim asked. Choi Minho pulled up Earth's defensive grid. Magnetic accelerator platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Nuclear missile silos on the moon. Kinetic weapon satellites in Earth orbit. To them, it probably looks primitive. Maybe that's good, Dr. Park said quietly. Every species they've conquered before had technology similar to theirs. They've never fought anyone who approaches warfare the way we do. Admiral Kim was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Dr. Park, I want you to study everything we know about their previous conquests. Find their patterns, their weaknesses. Choi, start running diagnostics on all defensive systems. Lee, keep monitoring their fleet. If they make any aggressive moves, I want to know immediately. As the meeting broke up, Lee returned to Aegis Station's bridge. The 12 massive alien ships remained at the edge of the solar system, waiting. He knew they were probably analyzing Earth's defenses, preparing their attack strategy. Sir, Jihai said softly, do you think we have a chance? Lee looked at the tactical display. Earth's defenses looked small and scattered compared to the massive alien fleet. By any reasonable analysis, humanity was completely outmatched. Jihai, how long have humans been fighting wars? I don't know, sir. Thousands of years? Try tens of thousands of years. We've been fighting each other since we lived in caves. We've fought with sticks and stones, swords and spears, cannons and bombs, tanks and aircraft. We've fought in forests and deserts, on mountains and in trenches, in cities and in space. He turned to look at her. These aliens have been conquering other species for a century. That sounds impressive until you realize that humans have been perfecting the art of warfare for 50,000 years. They think they're dealing with another civilized species that will surrender when faced with superior force. What are we then, sir? Lee smiled grimly. We're something they've never encountered before. We're a species that spent millennia learning how to fight when everything goes wrong, when you're outnumbered and outgunned, when surrender means death anyway. The alien fleet continued its silent watch at the edge of the solar system. They had given humanity 7 days to surrender. Lee suspected they expected an answer much sooner than that. They were about to learn that humans don't surrender easily.